What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 90210 Faux Show. This is a podcast on the hit 90s show Beverly Hills 90210. It ran from the year 1990, I'm pretty sure, to the year 2000. This episode, I'm going to talk about episode 5. The episode 5, season 1. It's called One on One. If you have not heard my podcast in the past, I have also reviewed 4 other shows, episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, season 1. So please check those out. But this one is episode 5, season 1, One on One. And let's get into it. Now, this is a very good episode. I can tell that 90210 now is starting to slowly get. They haven't got their pace on yet by this episode because it still is a very new series. Okay, but it's a good episode. All right, there's a lot of juicy stuff going on. First of all, let's just get into it. Brenda Walsh. I mean, you find out that she is now going to take her driver's training at the high school. Everybody remember that? I remember that. You had to do driver training if you wanted to get it before you're 18 or whatever your law is in your state. I grew up in the state of Ohio. If you were 18 and over in Ohio, you could just like take the test. You know, you'd have to pay somebody like $350 and have them train you for like 6 weeks. But once you turn 18, they're like, fuck it. Who cares if they have training? They're 18. Let them pay. Right? But this is 90210, and Brenda Walsh is in high school. So she goes to, Brenda goes to the classes. And before she starts the class, she's sitting down with the instructor. And, he finds out that she's taken it once and failed. And he's basically saying like, oh, wow, you've taken it once. And she goes, no. She basically hints around to, I've taken it 3 times at another high school or in Minnesota. And I failed it 3 times. And this is the 4th time Brenda Walsh is going to take the driver's test and exam. Okay, so we already get into that, right? Now, Brenda Walsh, her twin, which they're obviously not identical twins. Brandon Walsh, his thing is, the episode starts out with him and Jim Walsh, his dad, shooting baskets in the driveway because you can tell that Jim Walsh is very excited about Brandon trying out for the basketball team, the high school West Beverly High basketball team, right? So that's what's going on with these two. All right, during this episode. And I feel like this is more about Brandon, this episode, right? This is more of a Brandon episode than anything. Brenda, yeah, it is showing little things about Brenda, and you're learning about who Brenda is. You're learning a lot about Brenda's personality and, like, who she is. Brenda's a bit feisty, I'll give her that. Like, Brenda's a bit feisty. She's a little sassy, But I like it. I like what you're getting to know here. I do like most of this episode's talking about Brandon and Brandon and the basketball team and what the storyline goes with that. Also, another thing. So Brandon goes to basketball tryouts, right? All right, and at first he's not getting in. He's like, God, the coach could at least sub us in, because on the tryouts. But here's part of the the moral message in this one. Some African-American guys that are, first of all, these guys don't even look like high school basketball players. They got black guys on the team that don't look like high school kids, okay? They literally look like they're like 26 years old. I get it. That's what, they do such a good casting on this, but they don't do it with the sometimes they kind of miss it, right? Where they're like, no, we're going for an older look. Because you could definitely find some young kids. Because a lot of these actors a lot of these basketball players in this episode, they didn't even really say anything. They had 3 words the whole episode. So you could have got a young kid that had boyish young kid looks, but they didn't do that. So Brandon's trying to make it on a team with, there's probably 3 or 4 African-American guys on this team that's trying out, or they've already made it. And you start to see Steve Sanders' rich kid for the first time. You kind of learn a little bit about Steve, that Steve's a bit racist, I think, right? I mean, you start to see that like it's Steve Sanders kind of has this this is our school, not their school, and you're like, oh yeah, I've seen that in a movie before, right? Yeah, I see it right there. Division, segregation type talk. Steve Sanders like, hey, pump your brakes, rich kid. But I get it. So that's what you kind of seen out of Steve Sanders the whole time, right? And then also Steve Sanders kind of drops in like, you're not going to make the team, Brandon. Do you know they brought these kids in? They don't even go to class. You know that, Brandon. They don't even go to class. They just brought them in. They don't live in the district. They just brought them in from another district so they could play on the basketball team and they could win. That's what they're doing. So Brandon, that being, I don't know if you guys know this out there, but Brandon is the sports writer for West Beverly. Okay? I mean, so there's a conflict of interest already. So Brandon's like, what are you talking about? They bring him in from another district and they don't even go to class. So, Brandon Walsh is a very curious and intelligent young man, right? And also this episode, there's a couple words that they keep saying. There's some catchphrases that they would do here. So on this episode, they would say "so," right? Like when Kelly and Brenda met each other at the beginning, they're like "so," and they're like "yeah, so." And then they also, when the ladies say goodbye to each other, they go "bye," right? They're going "bye." I remember. I don't really remember that, but I kind of, now that I hear "bye," like it sounds like something I've heard. And also when Brandon was like, I'm going to try out for the basketball team, they kept going, aren't you a little short for basketball? That's what they kept saying to it. So I get it. They're doing some little catchphrase stuff. So Brandon tries out, right? And this, he's getting a little taste of it, right? I mean, he's like, oh, so what? They're bringing in these African American kids to the school, and I ain't gonna get a shot. And you can tell that Brandon has a little bit of pressure on himself from his dad, because his dad really wants Brandon to make this team. And then Steve Sanders is telling him, like, look, it's a joke. You ain't going to make the team. These goddamn African-American kids that they bring in from another district, they're going to make the team. Just get over it there, right? And Steve Sanders is being, Steve Sanders, a little mature for his age if you're thinking about it, but he's also, he's like a lot of kids. They just hear what their parents probably say. He's a bit ignorant. But, so Brandon's got a little bit of pressure on him right here. Brenda, as she's taking the driver's lessons, looking pretty good. Looks like she's gonna maybe pass this driver test. This episode, I noticed one thing. You did not see Dylan McKay. You didn't see Dylan McKay. You didn't even see him, I don't think. I didn't even see him on camera. I did see Donna Martin. But she didn't have any words. I don't remember Donna even have any lines or anything like that. David Silver did have some things. He ran up to Steve and basically said, Steve. He did that type of thing. And he's like, I was out for the last couple of days. If you didn't notice me around. And Steve's like, I didn't even notice you around. And he's like, I had the flu. And he was like, yeah, well, I don't care, So Brandon, being the curious Brandon, slowly starting to pay attention to this African-American student that's trying out for the same position as Brandon, right, on the basketball team. His name is James Townsend, all right? And he's like, who the hell is this James Townsend guy, right? He's in some of the same classes as Brandon, but Brandon never sees him, right? Brandon never sees him. So then Brandon tries to get Andrea on this story because he's like, look, I can't investigate this story. I'm trying out for the team that's going to look like bitter grapes if I post this after I don't make it, right? So Andrea Zuckerman starts getting on it. And it looks like Brandon's possibly going to make the team. He starts to make a cut or two. And Andrea comes to him with some information of like, yeah, this is, there's no information on James Townsend. I do think this is some kind of fraud is what Andrea's saying. And Brandon's like, oh, okay. And Andrea's like, do you want to talk to James Townsend or do you want me to talk to him? And Brandon's like, I'll do it. Right? So Brandon does his old... Brandon Walsh impersonation and coming up to James Townsend, the African-American basketball player, trying out for the same position as Brandon Walsh. And he goes, hey, what's up with this? What's up with that? And he goes, with an attitude, which he should, he was like, hey, man, I don't know what it is. Leave me alone. Get out of my face. Another rich guy in my goddamn face. Brandon, that doesn't sit well with him. Brandon still thinks there's some fraud, right? Brandon's like, oh, God. Right? And Brandon, he does look like he's a bit of a busybody here, but being a journalist, for West Beverly High, it kind of does that, right? Right? And then as the episode goes on, you definitely see the pressures of Jim Walsh trying to pressure Brandon and stuff like that. You also see how good of a kids these are, because even Brenda. So Kelly goes to Brenda and goes, as they're hanging out, they go, hey, we're going to get a limo tomorrow, right? She knows somebody is going to get a limo, and they're going to go see Janet Jackson and they're gonna get a limo with some freaking guy, right? And Kelly just tells her to lie to her mom and just say, "Hey, tell him you're going to the library." Guess who doesn't go? Brenda, right? But then next day, Kelly goes to the concert. Janet Jackson gets laryngitis. This guy that she goes with pukes in the limo. And Kelly's calling Brenda to say, "Hey, Brenda, please come pick me up." And this is very interesting because this is the first time that whether Kelly was playing Brenda or not, but Kelly goes, "Please, will you come pick me up and take Brandon's car, Mondale, for Walter Mondale, the candidate, the presidential candidate." And so Kelly goes, "Please, can you pick me up and rescue me from here?" And Kelly, first time ever, drops this. She goes, "Brenda, you're my best friend." And whether she's playing or not, Brenda goes, "Wow, really? I'm your best friend?" I mean, so God, I mean, pretty good line right there, man. Pretty good line. Yeah. Well, let's get back to West Beverly Blaze sports writer Brandon Walsh. Okay. So, before I do that though, Brenda does go try to pick up Kelly. Runs out of gas with Brandon's car, named Mondale. And it runs out of gas in the middle of the street. And like a dumb high school kid, she just leaves it there, goes to get some gas, comes back. It's freaking towed. They thought it was stolen, but it was towed. Because you can't leave a car in the middle of the street in Beverly Hills. Okay, it's just a fact. All right, you can't do it. So yeah, let's get back to beat writer of the West Beverly Blaze, Brandon Walsh. Okay. So Brandon goes to the library, right? Brandon's doing library stuff. Sees James Townsend, African-American, point guard, going out for the same position as Brandon. And in the library, they get very loud. They're like, you hear people yelling, "This is a library." And then, James Townsend's just saying, "Yeah, my dad was a," so James Townsend comes to find out the reason why there was no records and why James lives out of district. I guess they were trying to go on something where James Townsend's dad worked at the library for many years, and his dad gets the right to send, since his dad works for the library, that his kids could probably go to anywhere in the district because that's just like a bylaw or something like that. So James basically rips Brandon Walsh a new asshole. All right, and then Brandon feels pretty stupid. Right, Brandon starts to understand, like, I thought I was onto something, but I'm kind of looking like a little bit of a racist idiot dummy right here. So this is definitely a learning experience for Brandon, right? And Brandon comes back and basically rips into his dad saying, "Look, I ain't going to make the team," type talk, like, "Get out of my face, Pops," and Brenda, another thing is, Brenda does not get her driver's license, all right? There's an episode where Brenda's trying to drive with the teacher, the driving teacher, and the dumb driving teacher, they're at a stop sign, a four-way stop, and the driving teacher goes, "Is that Henry Winkler?" And then Brenda goes, "That's not Henry Winkler. We're talking about the Fonz." So you're saying Brenda says, "That's not Henry Winkler," right? And then she continues to go through the four-way stop, and then she goes, "Oh my God, that is Henry Winkler," and then almost gets in an accident, almost hits like a black Camaro or something like that. And then, so I assume that's what she fails. So Brenda Walsh did not get her driver's license because of the Fonz. I mean, it's very true that she didn't even get it because of the Fonz. This is amazing. And so then towards the end, and then Brandon Walsh goes to the gym early before tryouts and runs into James Townsend in there. And just like Brandon Walsh always does, because he's such a nice guy, he kind of has a heart-to-heart with James and being like, "Hey, man, I'm sorry, kind of, And I don't know if they necessarily say they're sorry, but they just, like guys, they just start shooting hoops. And next thing you know, they're just like, "You're cool, man. You're cool. I get it." Right? I mean, it's traditional type of like bro Beverly Hills 90210. I mean, I give it up for him. And comes to find out, Brandon does not make the team. He has to be on the B squad for a year or so. And at the end, African American guys, 3 of them, the ones that really didn't talk, they walk up on Brandon and Andrea. They stop with their mean face, and then they point and they go, "Hey, Minnesota," with a smile. And then Brandon goes, "Yeah, okay, he's in there." And then Steve Walsh, sticking to form, how he's like, "It's our school, it's not their school." And then Brandon goes, "Only in your head, Steve," right? Because Steve, they got to do that for Steve, right? I mean, Steve was like a lughead. He's like a rich kid lughead, and this was like his growth as Steve Sanders, like his arc. Like Steve goes from being like this dummy kid to eventually, well, we'll get there. Everybody watch 90210, you know where Steve Sanders goes, right? And yeah, that's basically the episode. Him and Brandon and Jim Walsh meet in the driveway and say, "Look, I'm going to be on the B squad for a year." And he goes, "That's totally okay. All right, that's totally okay, son, because Jim Walsh, Cindy Walsh, very good parents." And one-on-one, good episode. I think it was a good episode, man. They talk race relations in this. James Townsend kind of sprinkles in that he came from Inglewood and, that type of thing. I can't believe they do drop some pop culture stuff in here, like Janet Jackson and Steve Sanders also dropped in. You could tell like they were trying to make Steve. It was definitely a racial episode because Steve was like, Brandon, I went to a Lakers Boston Celtics game last night, and and he goes, yeah. He said Boston won, and he goes, I thought you were a Lakers guy, Steve. And Steve goes, yeah, but Irish people, you got to stick together, right? So he basically was saying like white people need to stick together. So I see where they were going with this episode. I'm not saying it was one of their best episodes ever when it comes to like moral type stuff and that type of thing, but at least 90210, they would tackle stuff like that. They didn't have to really do that. They could have done a bunch of fluff, but that was the thing. You were trying to grow with these kids, and that's where it was at. I think that's probably how it became so popular, is that they did stuff like that. I thought Brenda Walsh was looking pretty cute these days. I really did. I was really surprised that I never thought that about Brenda, but Brenda was a little cutie then, I guess, right? I mean, Brandon, everybody knows Brandon was a cutie those days, and Kelly. I mean, come on now. And, guys, I think I'm going to get out of here. My German Shepherd, my 2.5, 3-year-old German Shepherd right here is looking at me. She's almost 3, April 28th. Lola will be 3 years old. So she's looking at me like, hey, I got to pee. Or enough of this baloney, okay? I watched it with you today. Guys, you can find me on Instagram. It's Eric Pennell 1975 on Instagram. Also, I have another podcast on the Laugh Factory Network. It's called This Is for the Birds. It's with the very funny Russ Williamson and Pat Kelly. Please check that out. We're on iTunes for that. Guys, please, if you want to write into the show, please write me on Instagram. If you got any questions, please do. 90210, Beverly Hills, 90210, 1990 to 2000. It's been fun so far. Thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe if you like, and have a good day, guys. It's April 3rd, 2017. Let's go get it.